You are listening to the Techie Leadership Show with Bogdan and Andrei.
Hello and welcome to the Techie Leadership Show. Today with me I have Thomas Sundberg. He is a software developer, author of Mastering Selenium Testing Tools, and the founder of ThinkCode AB. Hello Thomas, how are you?
Hello Andrei, I'm fine, thank you. And you?
Yeah, same here. It's really
Nice to
great
hear.
and it's a pleasure having you on the show. Do you want to add anything else about yourself?
You said that I'm a developer, and that's correct. I've been developing since writing code since 1982. I just thought came up to that.
82.
I was 15 years old, so doing the math, it must have been 1982, and I was probably really boring as a kid because I never liked playing any video games or anything. So I started out on
No video games.
No, never done that.
Okay.
I have been working on gaming companies, but never played any games. So I started out
That's interesting.
I started writing a small program for holding records for a thing that my father was working on when I was 15.
Oh.
In implementing bubble sort, had to fit everything into memory, so I had to shorten variable names. It was a bit complicated, and I was 15. But it was fun.
Basically, you're a second generation software developer.
Am I? No, I don't know.
No?
Second? Well,
you said you're helping your father.
My father had a business need. He didn't know about programming, but he had a need, and I learned about programming to resort that need.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Getting involved in the family business. Really good. That's a way of learning, and it's good. Anything else you want to add, or is that okay?
I guess that's pretty okay. I've been doing this for a long time. I see things come, I see things go.
Oh yes. Lots of time is the same thing with different terminology attached to it. Well, just from my experience, it's the same concept wrapped in a new package.
I must say that I definitely agree. The only new thing I am aware of that occurred in recent times would be relational databases that showed up around 1988, 1989. After that, I don't think anything new has happened. Object orientation, that's 70s. Markup languages, XML, HTML, that's late 60s.
Yes.
Containerization, Docker, early 70s or mid 70s, been done in mainframes forever. But
yes.
we are a trade that where a lot of people haven't been around that long, and a lot of people, they don't know the history. So a lot of people don't know that the concept as such has been around for a long time. The packaging is new.
Yes, exactly.
So yes, it's very interesting, but it's also interesting that the new ideas are repackaged and sold as new ideas.
Yeah, and it's also in some ways it's good, because if you spend like 5 years really going deep and getting as much knowledge and information about software development, afterwards, it's when the new concepts appear, you realize, it's the old stuff. It's just I need to learn the new key phrases and I'm good to go.
Sometimes it is like that. But it's also very important sometimes that you don't discard the new ideas as a repackaged idea, because that will put people off.
That can be a pitfall.
Yes, it can be an issue, actually.
So with all your experience, I'm really curious about the stories you have. And let's start from the top. What is the biggest leadership success story you've witnessed personally?
And I've seen that question. I saw the questions beforehand, and I've been thinking a little bit about it. And unfortunately, I can't really think of a really good success story I could share. I've seen
No?
managers that are okay. I've seen managers that or leaders that are okay. Not very often I've seen someone who surprised me or made me really happy and someone I really want to work for.
That's a
And that's very
tragedy.
sad. It is a tragedy.
Yes.
And I guess that's partly why I became self-employed. My last manager, who I was employed, who was my employer, he told me that, hey, Thomas, you can't be steered. Why don't you start your own company? So
Oh,
he didn't fire me or anything like that, but he suggested that, well, you don't like it around here anyway, so why don't you start your own thing? So I spent the Christmas thinking about this, talked a lot with my partner about it. She was a bit worried. What happens if you don't find assignments? Because I was the sole provider for the family back then.
okay.
So yes, there was
Lots of
some risks
pressure.
involved. Not that much pressure, but there were risks. But I decided that, well, I want to do this, and so I did, and it's been that has been a success since. That was in 2013.
You're at it for quite some time
So
now.
maybe that is the leadership success
It is.
can't recognize. As this person Pelle, he realized that this person is hard or impossible to steer. So therefore, why even bother?
That's an important realization.
Yeah.
And how is it now being the boss?
I have lots of arguments with my boss. He's really stupid, my boss. Unfortunately, that's me, myself, and I. No, honestly, it's best thing ever. So from that perspective, I can only see one reason why someone would not want to be self-employed around here in Sweden. And that is if you wanted to be on paternity leave. No one will pay an invoice if you're on paternity leave.
Oh, yes.
So if you become a parent, I can see a point in being employed somewhere, because it happens that they pay you a little bit more than just regular paternity payment. That's the only reason I can think of, to be honest.
Okay.
Working as, in my case, consultant and contractor, helping out where people want help, that works very well.
Oh,
but it's not for
that's
everyone.
Really
some people, they want like a harbor. This is where I belong. And well, that's not necessarily me, or I have those what do you call that, I have that set up anyway, because I'm a musician. I am involved in 2 different orchestras, so that's where my harbor is, I guess. And then I have lots of friends who are in similar situations.
You're also a musician. Oh, and I always thought there's a lot of correlation between programming and music. Do you find it to be so, or?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I'm not necessarily convinced that it's programming, but the ability to study and study focused is something you have to learn when you're a kid. And if you play a musical instrument, it is possible to learn that, and you have to do it if you want to continue. So I see. I'm not sure it's a correlation, but I see a connection between being able to study focused and playing an instrument. But it's then again, I know a lot of people who has studied and learned a lot of things and never ever played an instrument. So it's not a very clear connection there. But I do think it exists.
And just out of curiosity, what instrument do you play?
I played the trombone.
The trombone.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
You're
And
the
before
first
you
person
ask,
I know. Yeah.
okay. Oh, I know more of them. We have
Sure.
Steve Freeman wrote the fantastic book Growing Object-Oriented Systems Guided by Tests. He's also played the trombone. We had a long chat in Potsdam a couple of years ago about the similarities between playing in a section, as in 3 or 4 or 5 persons playing the same instrument, more or less the same thing, and a team. Because
nice conversation.
It was very good. And one of the things I think Steve said was that if you have a star, and the star doesn't help the rest of the musicians or developers, it's going to be crap or shit.
Yeah.
And I think he actually used the word shit. It's going to sound like shit. If we're looking at the trombone section, then there's a star, and then there's 4 amateurs. So what you have to do as the star or the best musician, if there is such a thing, is to help out the people around you. You have to push them forward, give them a chance to shine. You don't have to shine all the time. You will shine anyway. You have to give the folks around you the ability or possibility to shine by helping them. Yes, exactly. And that's the same thing with the team. If you have a team of developers and one developer is really, really good, best ever, no one is even close, but this person is not even trying to help the rest of the team, there won't be anything out of that. That's a disaster. Absolutely. So that's a matter of, I guess, leadership. You can lead. I mean, leadership is not being a leader. That's not a role. It could be a role, but it's actually a behavior. And anyone can be a leader. And if there isn't a leader in a group, a leader will emerge. Yes. So someone will become the leader because we are humans. We are what do you call that? A pack. Is that the correct English word?
A tribe or a pack.
A tribe.
It's in our human DNA to always choose a leader eventually.
Yes. I'm thinking of things like dogs or wolves. They are also an animal that lives in groups, and there's always a leader. That's why you can, if you have a domestic dog, that's why you can steer them, because they're looking for a leader. If you take that role, then you can steer that dog. And in any group, there will be some kind of leader.
Yeah, and it's really interesting that because I just remember a more recent study about wolves, because you have the whole alpha wolf that leads the pack. And actually, I think the person that coined the idea and came up with it is actually regretting putting it out there because it caught so much attention. And newer studies show that actually, even in a wolf pack, it's not just one leader. There's several wolves that are good at specific tasks, and they change leadership depending on what are the goals of the pack, what they want to achieve. So it's not just one person always leading. They actually switch roles and say, "We have to do this. You're better at it. You lead us now." Which I find really interesting. It's not fixed.
No, and that makes a lot of sense. And that's why I don't think of things like sometimes you hear that people are lead developers. And yes, that could be a role. Perhaps you would get a little bit extra pay if you were the lead developer. But the point here is that anyone can be, and anyone perhaps should try to be sometimes the leader, showing people the way. And I know for a fact that there are a lot of things I don't know. That's one of the good things of being around for some time. You thought you knew everything like 25, 30 years ago, and then you realize that you don't know that much. So I don't think I was ever as mature as I was when I was 15. And then it's just been downhill from that. and I love every minute of it because I realize that I learn a lot. So lead developer, that's very strange if there's one person with that specific role and everyone has to obey what that person says, because that person probably knows a lot but most likely doesn't know everything. So you have to be a little bit humble, and you have to give people room and space so they can express what they think. They may be right or wrong, you don't know. And honestly, it doesn't really matter if they're right or wrong. They have a different perspective. Listen to it, take that into consideration. Don't write them off by saying, "Hey, you're just a kid. You haven't even been around 10 years in this business."
God, don't do that.
No, that's stupid. That's very stupid. Listen, learn, and take it from there.
And it's, as you said, like, it's really important. If it falls in your area of expertise, become more of a leader. And when tasks that are related to area of expertise, become the leader in that part of the project and guide the rest of the team to make it more efficient.
Yes, I can share a story regarding that from yesterday. When I was so I'm implementing a web application for a customer, and I can't say that I know too much about web development. I know some. I don't know React. I don't know TypeScript that well. I know a little bit, enough so I can use it, but I'm not an expert. But I have a guy employed, Mika, and he hasn't been around that long, but he's been working with React for some time. So he had to lead me yesterday when I was connecting a few components and had them doing callbacks and all kind of more or less magic things, which was great. Little bit complicated because we're not in the same area. He's in Turku, Finland, and I'm in Stockholm, Sweden. So we had to use video chat and share screen. And if you share screen but you can't type on the other screen, it's actually rather complicated sometimes.
Yes.
So, but anyway, so he was able to lead on that. And then he was working on a little bit of a backend thing in another project that we are working on together as well. It was a little bit complicated, and so I took the lead in showing him a few things there. So depending on the context, you can be a leader or you can be a follower. And discarding someone just because they haven't been around for not even 10 years, that's just stupid. Let's not do that.
Yes, it is. And getting back to the questions, what would be the biggest leadership fail we had the unfortunate experience of witnessing?
Leadership failures. I can't really think of. It's a little bit hard to come up with a really good example because I think I have had so many managers that could improve. There are a few of them who are worse than others, and I don't want to mention too much details because, well, I don't want to do that. But yeah, I've seen horrible leaders that, for example, thought we defined that we should be done by a certain date and fired the entire development team by that date, and we wasn't even close to be fired. Being done. That has happened. So
why would you do something like that?
We had what they call I don't know the English term here, but you had an unemployment that had a fixed end date, and when that end date came, we were supposed to be done, but we weren't. We really worked hard. We worked 7 days a week for sometimes, but
7 days a week.
Yes, that was.
We got paid only for 5, I guess.
We did get paid for the hours, but we didn't get paid overtime, which was. You could have opinions about that, but never mind. That was what we call a death march in this business, and every developer has done one or two and I recommend every developer not
Yes.
to do more because it doesn't
That's a
pay
really
off.
good tip. Yeah, that's a really good tip.
Yeah, if you've done it once, never do it again. And if you wanna listen to an advice, never do it. But people don't listen to advice. People fail, and then they might understand that they should have listened to an advice.
Yeah.
So
Usually it
leadership
makes it
failure.
yes. Usually it makes it easier if you know about okay, this is a failure that you might encounter, a problem that you might encounter, and you know about it. It doesn't mean that you will not have it. Just makes it a little easier to get past it because you also have the solution. Say, okay, yeah, I got the problem. I know this is a solution. I'm not going to wait to apply it or come up with something better. I'm just going to use this, and I know it's good.
Mm-hmm. And it's hard to connect to some problems that people talk about if you have no idea what they're talking about. So if you haven't
That's also
experienced
true.
such a thing, then you can't really understand what we are talking about. But that leadership that just got rid of the development team, I guess that was a bit of a fail. They didn't get the thing they wanted on time, but that was their problem, not mine.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
right. Usually deadlines, especially in creative industries, they're never. You either undershoot it or you overshoot it. It's never just on time. It's on time
No.
if you finish it earlier and you just wait until and you deliver it then. That's the only way to do it.
Yeah, I guess so. So I really, as I'm a kind of architect and kind of leading the technical part of a project where this guy in Finland is working on, and he's the one that actually does most of the work at the moment. But I never ask him for, or actually I try not to ask him for, at what time will this be done?
Yeah,
it is hard not
that's
to
a
ask,
really good policy.
but it's very hard to not ask that question, as I'm really keen on getting some stuff done. And I would be able to cut some. I would be happy to cut some corners just to get it done. We are called Fitumi, the business entity that owns this thing. Fitumi is an abbreviation for "fake it till you make it," which is, and we have registered that as a company name, Fitumi. So there is a company in Sweden that means this.
I love it. And you have just one word. It's not a whole phrase.
It's just one word, so it doesn't mean anything unless you know where we took the letters from. And I was thinking about something a musician told me a long time ago, that if you want to play in Las Vegas, then you need to be able to do two things. You need to be able to fake, and you have to be able to transpose. So fake, you may not be able to play this properly, but you do your best, and it's good enough so people don't understand that you can't. So that's faking. And transposing means that you have a tune in a certain key, but the singer the singer can't sing in that key, so you have to transpose it. You have to play like one tone up or down or something, and that's very hard if you haven't practiced it. So you have to be able to do that. If someone says, oh, well, this one is in B flat, but we're going to play it in A, then you need to know how to do that. And no one will change your music. So you will have to be able to read it and transpose it. I can't. I'm just an amateur. But if you're a professional and you live on this, then you're expected to be able to do that.
Do it on the fly.
Yeah, do it on the fly. That's very hard.
Now I have a deeper appreciation of musicians, professional musicians, even amateur ones. It's like I always wanted to learn an instrument. I find it really hard. Try to pick up guitar, but it's just it's hard on the fingers.
Yeah, okay. But you also need the context. You need the place where you play together with other people. I hated it when I started, but I wasn't allowed to stop. And then when I was like 13 or 14, I was allowed to stop if I wanted to. But then I didn't want to, because then I started playing together with other people. And it was very fun.
Okay.
So I was forced for like 2 years or something. And then I was given the choice, and I choose not to stop.
Awesome. You gave me a great idea. And I think this applies like anything. If you can work with while you're learning, be in a group and to make it like a group effort, it's even better.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
And with that in mind, after all your experience, what would be your leadership philosophy?
Oh, that's a very deep question. Do I have a philosophy? To be honest, no, I don't think I have a leadership philosophy. Perhaps I have an idea that if I'm which I am at the moment, a manager in the sense that I have one person working for me as an employee, how
Okay.
I want to treat this person as I want to be treated myself.
Yes.
So you want to treat that person very fair. You don't want to request things that you didn't want to be requested from you, that you didn't want someone to request from you. So if you don't want someone to tell you that you should work overtime, I would never ask anyone to work overtime. So I guess treating people like yourself, like you want to be treated yourself,
That's
as
a good
fair as
philosophy.
possible. Is it a philosophy? Maybe it is. So be a nice person, in short. I mean, you don't have to be silly nice, but be nice. And realize that everyone has a life somehow, somewhere. They have, hopefully, they have a family. And if they don't have a family, they probably have friends that they want to hang out with. Don't be in the way too much. I mean, work takes time. So yes, I do expect that the work is being done properly, but is the work the most important thing in life? I don't think so. So treat people with respect and as fair as you can.
Really good. I like it. And it
Okay.
also, it's something that I try to do. It's hard. It's a hard balance because sometimes what you like might not be something that the people you're managing or some of them like. They want something
No.
else. Yeah.
Yes.
So you also have to be accommodating for their preferences and what they want to do and want to give. It's
And
difficult.
it is very difficult. But I also think that if you have a goal, you can behave in different ways of achieving this goal. One way can be to order this should be done like this, no explanation given.
Authoritarian.
Yes. Or you could say or share, this is our goal, this is where we want to be. I think that this path could lead us in this direction. What do you think? And if you have a good path,
Yes.
then the answer is hopefully obvious. We should do it like this. But if I don't know why I should do something, I'm just told do it, then I won't do it with any happiness or pride or anything. I'll just do it. Maybe half of it.
Yes.
But you won't know because I do it good enough so you don't know that it's just rubbish under the surface.
You're
But
faking it.
if I can share why we do this and what the end result would be, then and why we do this, then you understand and you know you're bringing you're contributing with your part.
And it becomes also that project or whatever you're working on also becomes something, a way for you to express yourself and everybody in the team to express himself, which is always good.
Yes.
And with that in mind, for aspiring leaders, what would be the top 3 leadership tips you would have for them?
Realize that you don't know everything. Accept that and ask other people for their opinions. Take them into consideration. And if you don't agree, ask yourself, why do I not agree? who is right, who is wrong? Is there a right and is there a wrong? Maybe there are two rights. Maybe there is one way that is a little bit better for some reason, and it may or may not be the idea you had. So be open of changing your mind. I'm sometimes very, very stubborn, and I know that this is the way, the best way. But I'm also open with, I'll change my mind about half a microsecond after you have convinced me about something else. If you can convince me that this is very good for another reason, then I'm hopefully, and I mean, I shouldn't be the judge of this, but I'm hopefully mature enough to understand that, well, I was incorrect. So let's change mine.
To do.
Yes, it is sometimes hard to do. And there are a lot of people who think that this is a way of losing face, which is which couldn't be more wrong. It's that's not the way.
Exactly.
So if you think you know the way, be open that it might not be the best way.
Don't let social pressure force you to make decisions that you know in your heart are not correct.
I guess that's one thing.
Yes.
Take some time to make up your mind, and that's a culture thing. In some cultures, you need a strong leader, or people expect a strong leader, and it doesn't matter if they're right or wrong. They took a decision, and we go with that. That's not the way it is done around here where I live. Sometimes it happens, but it's very common that things are discussed in a group, or informally around the coffee machine or something. Which is better? I don't know. But I do know that the difference between different countries is large. So if I go to Finland, which I do quite often, since my partner is from Finland, they have another way of looking at leadership. They want a strong leader.
Oh, really?
And we even share the same language partly. In Finland, they are bilingual, so about 8 to 10%, 8 perhaps, is speaking Swedish. So we can understand each other perfectly well. I don't understand Finnish. That's it's a different language group, so it's very hard to learn.
Okay.
I don't understand anything of it. I know like 2 words or something. So we have a social, what do you call it? Not social, a culture connection, in the sense that we have a shared language. But we have a very different view on leadership in the 2 countries. Yeah, I find that very interesting. So it's very much depending on where you are. In some countries, you do as boss tells you. In some countries, it depends. I might do what you tell me, and I might not. I'm Swedish. I don't care. If you talk to some person from India, a totally different mindset applies. So I don't know if this connects to leadership tips, but it's important to understand that it's different in different cultures.
Yes. And even if they're like across the border, there can be cultural differences, because I know, like, I'm in Romania, in Iași, I'm like half an hour distance from Moldavia, but and we speak the same language, actually. We share the whole bunch of our past together, but there are cultural differences which, if you do not know, you will have a really bad time managing mixed teams, or if you have a team in Romania and a team in Moldova, you cannot manage them the same way. And if you put them together without taking care to smooth out the cultural differences, it's going to be a mess. And I know that from personal experience.
Okay. If you are living so close to Moldavia and been working as a manager, I expect that, I can understand that.
Yes. what is the book that had the most profound impact on you?
Good question. Profound impact. It's not about leadership because I never read a book about leadership, to be honest.
Okay, it doesn't have to be about leadership. It can be about anything.
Yes.
It has to be powerful.
Yes. So I'm looking in my bookshelf now, and I guess this is a point where you might want to cut. Yes, there it is.
No, we'll leave it in.
So I'm just showing you a book called Growing Object-Oriented Systems Guided by Test. And it's written by Steve Freeman, who I mentioned earlier, and a person called Nat Price, based in London, both of them. And it's a very, very good book that defines test-driven development outside in. Test-driven development, I assume you're familiar with it, but let me just shortly mention that you write a test first, and then you write the production code. The classical way of doing this would be to start from the inside and work yourself to the outside. That's the way Kent Beck introduced it. And he was not introducing test-driven development, he just rediscovered it. Because again, there's nothing new under the sun. This was invented in the 50s. But what Steve and Nat did, they wrote down an idea that emerged from Extreme Tuesday Club in London. That is that you write your tests outside in. So you write an acceptance test. It doesn't pass because there is nothing that works.
Yes.
But then you implement enough so it passes. And now you know that the acceptance test pass, except that everything is faked below it. So now you start working down in the stack, and then you end up in the bottom. Perhaps you end up in the database. But you don't start from the database. You start from the outside view of the system. They also introduce hexagonal architecture in that book, which is a very, very natural evolution. That's the way you want to do it. You want to start from the outside, and you want to be able to disconnect things. The hexagonal architecture describes this very well. So this book, Growing Object-Oriented Software Guided by Tests, I'm reading on the cover, is a very good book, and it has had a lot of impact on me.
That's good. And I know I also like to start with tests and work my way. Sometimes I start outside in, sometimes I start inside out, depending on how well I understand the requirements and what is happening.
Yes, and it's that's two different schools. They have different names. One of them is the classical TDD, that's the Kent Beck thingy. It's also called the Chicago School sometimes. And then there's outside in, which also can be referred to the London School of TDD.
I know Uncle Bob has like a series with Chicago versus London, and it's about this. They build the same damn application.
Yeah, I know that he recorded some stuff together with Sandro Mancuso from he's a Brazilian guy living in London, and I know that Sandro learned this from Steve. I know both of them.
Awesome stuff, Thomas. If people want to find out more about you, where should they go?
I guess looking at my blog, which is under blog at thinkcode.se blog. That's one way of finding out. Look me up on LinkedIn, or check the conferences in Romania. I will be in Iași in November.
Yes,
I forgot. For conference, and I currently don't remember the name of the conference. No. I don't remember.
It's either Dev Experience or Code Camp, one of those two.
Yes, Code Camp.
Code Camp?
I'm doing something with Code Camp in October. I think it's October. If it isn't cancelled, it was supposed to be in this spring, but for reasons it was cancelled.
Yes.
So, or if for that matter, GeekCon in Prague. No, not GeekCon in Prague, but GeekCon in Krakow in September. Unless that's cancelled as well, I don't know. It was cancelled. It was supposed to be last week. We're going to see that. So I'm around on the conference scene in Europe, and I'm also available online. I'm also available on Twitter, where I have a Twitter handle, which is Thomas Sundberg in one word. I don't tweet that much, a little bit. I mostly retweet good things I see.
Good. So reach out to Thomas, read his blog, go to one of the conferences where he's speaking, and maybe even go for a beer. Who knows? He has lots of interesting stuff to say. Yeah. It has been a pleasure having you on the show, Thomas. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. Bye.
Okay, bye.
That was today's episode. Tune in daily. Rate, like, subscribe, and share, please. Oh, you can find further info and materials in the show notes on techyleadership.com, including links to the guest book recommendations.